The vastness of space was eerily quiet, except for the steady vibration of the Nebula Striker's engines. The scouting vessel, commanded by Ethan Vale, hovered just above the rocky surface of Nix 7, a distant exoplanet that scientists had marked as a potential new home for humanity. The planet's thick, bluish fog coiled and shifted like living shadows, giving the terrain an otherworldly feel. The alien flora pulsed with an eerie green luminescence, reacting subtly to the ship's thruster heat. That was when Ethan spotted something unusual, a figure sprawled in the tall, glowing plants. It was a woman, but not human. Her slender body quivered slightly, her skin a soft violet hue that shimmered faintly under the dim light. Long silver strands of hair clung to her forehead, damp with sweat. Her clothes, if they could even be called that, were nothing more than thin fabric strips barely concealing her form. "Damn," Ethan muttered under his breath. Without hesitation, he brought the Nebula Striker down. The landing thrusters sent a heavy thump through the ground as the ship settled. The moment the engines powered down, Ethan jumped out, his suit sensors flashing warning symbols as he approached. The alien woman struggled to breathe, her chest rising and falling in irregular gasps. Deep gashes marked her body, dark green blood seeping from her wounds. He crouched beside her, feeling a strange warmth emanating from her skin, like a low electric charge. Her eyes fluttered open, large, golden, and slit-pupilled, staring straight into his own. "You are not one of them," she rasped, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan didn't hesitate. Without thinking, he scooped her up and hurried back to the ship. Her body was surprisingly warm, her violet skin soft against the hard plates of his suit. As he carried her, a faint, sweet aroma filled his senses, something floral yet unfamiliar, something distinctly alien. Hours later, inside the Nebula Striker, the cabin filled with the rich scent of sizzling synthetic protein. Ethan stirred the pan, the small stove crackling softly in the background. He was lost in thought until a faint sigh broke the quiet. She was awake. Turning around, Ethan activated his portable translator. The device blinked a few times before rendering her voice into his language. "Who are you, stranger?" He raised an eyebrow at her choice of words. Stranger? That was polite. Ethan Vale. Pilot. Explorer. Survivor, he said. "And you?" She pushed herself up, her silver hair cascading over her shoulders. The metallic sheets barely covered her body, and she regarded him with open curiosity. "I am Riza of the Zifiri," she answered. Ethan frowned slightly. He didn't know much about her species, but what struck him was what she said next. "I am an elder of my kind." He studied her youthful features, confusion flickering in his mind. "Elder? How old are you? In your measure?" She tilted her head. "Around 40 cycles." Ethan blinked. He was 25, a slight age gap, though she looked no older than himself. Riza's cool fingers brushed against his chest, tracing the fabric of his undershirt. Her golden eyes gleamed with something unreadable. "You saved me at a difficult time, Ethan Vale," she murmured. Something in her tone sent a shiver up his spine. "What do you mean?" Her fingers ghosted down his arm, her voice taking on a sultry edge. "Because my body has entered its mating cycle, and our customs dictate that a warrior who saves an elder must answer her call." Ethan froze. "I'm sorry, what?" She smirked, her expression filled with a playful challenge. "It is the law of my people." Her eyes raked over him, sharp and assessing. "And you appear strong enough." A slow heat crept through Ethan's chest. He wasn't naive, and he could tell when someone was testing him. Riza was testing hard. "Well," he exhaled, his lips curling slightly. "I suppose I have responsibilities to uphold." She chuckled, a deep, melodic sound. And before Ethan could react, Riza tugged him forward. The sudden closeness sent a jolt through him. Her cool skin met his warmth, an intoxicating contrast that set every nerve on edge. The scent of her, spiced and unfamiliar, wrapped around his senses, dizzying and impossible to ignore. Their lips hovered near each other, barely inches apart. "You kiss differently," she murmured, her breath mingling with his. "That's because I'm human. I like it." The moment hovered on the edge of something deeper, until a blaring alarm shattered the atmosphere. Proximity alert. Unidentified vessels detected. Ethan's instincts took over. He snapped toward the control panel, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. Rise's expression darkened. "They found me." Outside, 3 angular spacecraft loomed in the darkness, their sleek hulls glowing with streaks of pulsing blue. "Who the hell are they?" Ethan demanded. Her gaze hardened. "The Veil Corps," she spat. "Betrayers of my race." The tension in the cabin spiked instantly. Whatever moment had been brewing between them evaporated as the situation turned deadly. Ethan cracked his knuckles, flipping the Nebula Striker's weapon systems online. "If they're here for a fight," he muttered, "they're about to regret it." Ryza smirked, her breath still ragged, but her eyes gleaming with excitement. "I suspected you were a warrior." The ship's hull vibrated as the first energy blast struck. Blue plasma streaked through the void, slamming into the shields with a resounding impact. The lights flickered for a brief moment, casting shifting shadows across the cockpit. "Damn it," Ethan growled. "They're not messing around." Ryza gripped the seat behind him, her claws flexing. "They seek to capture me, to erase my name and my lineage." Ethan stole a quick glance at her. Even wounded, she radiated a quiet strength. "Not happening," he said firmly. With a sharp pull on the controls, the Nebula Striker came to life, engines roaring as the ship dodged another plasma strike. The stars blurred as Ethan twisted the ship into an evasive maneuver. "Hold on!" Ryza braced herself as Ethan activated the counterfire sequence. A volley of high-energy missiles launched from the ship's side cannons, streaking toward their pursuers like guided meteors. One of the enemy vessels banked hard to evade, but the explosion engulfed it in a ball of blue fire. Ethan grinned. "One down." Ryza's golden eyes burned with fierce satisfaction. "Then let's finish the rest." The battle had only begun. "One down." Ethan smirked, but his control panel blared red warnings. The remaining 2 enemy ships split apart, maneuvering to flank him from both sides. He gritted his teeth. Staying on the defensive would only get him killed. He needed to change the game. "Ryza, how do these ships operate?" She quickly pulled up a holographic display, fingers gliding over the glowing interface. "They rely on thermal core stabilizers. If we overload their heat regulation, they'll shut down." Ethan's grin widened. "Then let's turn up the temperature." He slammed the Nebula Striker's throttle forward, forcing the ship into a high-speed dive between the enemy crafts. The sheer velocity left a fiery plasma wake in its path, disrupting their targeting systems and leaving them temporarily blinded. "Now!" Ryza shouted. Ethan flipped the ship around in an instant, unleashing every weapon in his arsenal. The energy blast tore through the enemy vessels, striking their core reactors. In a split second, their hulls cracked apart, disintegrating into the void. Silence fell. The debris from the destroyed ships drifted, illuminated by the distant glow of Nix 7's surface. Ethan exhaled heavily, his heart still pounding. They had won. He turned to Ryza, who was breathing heavily, silver strands of hair clinging to her skin. Her golden eyes burned with exhilaration. "That was thrilling," she admitted, a dangerous smirk playing on her lips. Ethan chuckled, wiping sweat from his brow. "I could say the same." She stepped closer, her cool fingertips grazing his jaw. "You've saved my life twice today, Ethan Vale." Her voice was low, sultry. "Such deeds do not go unrewarded among my kind." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what exactly does that mean?" Ryza leaned in, her breath warm against his skin. "You'll find out soon enough." Their lips met, but this time there was no urgency, just something deeper, something unspoken. But the war wasn't over yet. Ryza pulled back slightly, her gaze turning serious. My people still suffer under the Veil Core. We must reclaim our home. Ethan nodded, gripping her hand firmly. Then let's finish this. The nebulous striker descended through the dense atmosphere, cutting through the glowing blue clouds and entering the shimmering forest below. Their destination, the Sanctum of Elders, a monolithic structure of black stone and towering spires, now the seat of the betrayer who had nearly destroyed Ryza's people. Inside, thousands of Zifri awaited, some loyal, others submissive under fear. Whatever was about to happen, it would decide their future. Before stepping off the ship, Ryza caught Ethan's arm. The fate of my people rests on this battle. Ethan tilted her chin up, meeting her fierce gaze. Then let's make sure we win. A small, knowing smile touched her lips. The Sanctum's guards were caught off guard when Ethan and Ryza stormed through the entrance, weapons drawn. Blades clashed, energy bolts cut through the air, and chaos erupted as loyalists emerged from the shadows, fighting for their freedom. Traitors to the Zifri. Ryza's voice rang out, commanding the hall. You surrendered to fear, but today you will kneel before the true elder. The chamber trembled with the roar of battle. Ethan dodged a plasma bolt by inches, rolling across the marble floor before taking out two enemies with precise shots. Damn, that was close, he muttered breathless. Ryza moved like a phantom through the fray, her twin blades gleaming as she cut through the opposition. Her fury was swift, her strikes precise. From atop the throne, the usurper glared down at her. You should be dead, he hissed. She ascended the steps with measured steps, her grip tightening on her blade. And you should have been a leader, not a tyrant. The final duel was quick but decisive. He tried to counter her strikes, but Ryza's rage fueled her. With a sharp movement, she forced him to his knees before the watching Zifri. Ethan stepped beside her, his blaster aimed. Looks like your reign is over, buddy. Ryza turned to the gathered crowd, lifting her head high. No more oppression, no more betrayal. Today, the Zifri rise again. A deafening cheer echoed through the sanctum. The war was won. Hours later, the once dark halls of the sanctum pulsed with life, filled with the sound of celebration. The Zifri embraced their freedom, their true elder restored. Ethan stood on a high balcony, gazing at the twin moons of Nyx, 7 while sipping an alien drink that burned like whiskey. Ryza approached, the wind catching her silver hair, her violet skin glowing under the night sky. You saved my people, Ethan Vale. He smirked, swirling the liquid in his glass. And you saved my heart. She raised an eyebrow, amused. That was absurdly poetic. Maybe, he admitted, shrugging. But it's still true. She stepped closer, golden eyes searching his. You could stay, you know. My people need a warrior by the elder's side. Ethan glanced at the horizon. He had spent his life chasing the stars, never lingering in one place. But this planet had something no other did. Her. He turned to her, cupping her face gently. I think I just found my home. Their lips met again, and as they kissed under the alien sky, Ethan knew one thing for certain. The war was over, but their story was only just beginning.